You might be surprised to learn that the prophet mentioned most frequently in the Quran is Prophet Musa alayhi salam, who appears 136 times. The story of Prophet Musa is remarkable in itself, but what is even more striking is how frequently his relationship with the children of Israel and his leadership over them is recounted in different verses and surahs. This is because the Quran is not a history book. In its own words, the Quran narrates stories not merely to provide information, but so that lessons may be taken and applied to our lives. Therefore, every event recounted is not a story left in the past, but a message addressing our present day. So, what does Allah Almighty want us to understand from the story of the children of Israel? And why is this story repeated so often? The story of the children of Israel begins under the oppression of Pharaoh. There is a tyrannical order where male children are slaughtered and women are left alive. This is not only physical persecution, but also a policy of intimidation and identity erasure. In such an environment, Allah declares His will to show favor to those who were oppressed in the land and to make them leaders and inheritors, sending Musa alayhi salam as a messenger against Pharaoh. Prophet Musa alayhi salam comes with miracles. He shows clear proofs. Yet despite all these miracles, Pharaoh rejects the truth. Because the problem is not a lack of evidence. The problem is arrogance and the intoxication of power. Accepting the truth requires abandoning the throne and the ego. Pharaoh cannot do this. In this video, we will examine the story through three main periods: the years of captivity under oppression, the purification process in the desert, and the stage of reaching the Promised Land. The first period is the period of captivity. From the outside, this is a clear period of oppression and slavery. However, internally, it carries a deeper meaning. A society living under oppression for a long time can eventually forget freedom. Fear can become a habit. People feel anger towards the pressure but simultaneously become dependent on it. Because the order of slavery leaves no room for the burden of thinking and responsibility. The power to decide lies with someone else. Captivity is not just chains, it is a mental framework. In this period, the children of Israel had become a crushed, intimidated community that had lost its self-confidence. The second period is the desert period. Allah saves them from Pharaoh. The sea splits, they cross, and Pharaoh drowns. They are now physically free. But the real test begins here. Because getting out of Egypt is easy. Getting Egypt out of the person is hard. The years spent in the desert are a process of waiting and purification. During this process, they frequently complain, become impatient, and even miss the old days. They remember the false security provided by the slave order, asking for the earth's herbs, cucumbers, garlic, lentils, and onions instead of better provision. The third period is the stage of reaching the Promised Land. This is not simply arriving at a geography. This is assuming the responsibility of establishing one's own order. The era of saying Pharaoh oppressed us is over. Freedom brings responsibility. What keeps a society standing is no longer the external enemy, but internal discipline and the consciousness of obedience. If the internal transformation is not completed, physical freedom is insufficient. Every human being may experience these three periods in their life. Times when they are under pressure, transition periods where they step into freedom but struggle, and finally the stage of maturity where they must take responsibility. At first glance, it might seem like these stories are repeated to criticize the children of Israel. But in reality, Allah Almighty is holding up a mirror to us. The goal is not to humiliate a community, but to educate the human being. It is to warn every new believer, and every person who believes but whose faith eventually becomes mixed with arrogance. It teaches the danger of viewing Allah's favor as an entitlement. Because sometimes, to escape the responsibility brought by freedom, a person may miss the captivity they know. The story of the children of Israel teaches us this. Even if the truth comes with clear proofs, if there is arrogance in the heart, one will still reject it. Being under oppression is a test, but failing to take responsibility after being set free is a heavier test. The chain of slavery is visible, but the chains of habits and fears are invisible. By telling this story repeatedly, the Quran asks us, when the evidence comes, will you submit or will you resist like Pharaoh? When you are set free, will you be grateful or will you be ungrateful for the manna and salwa? When you cannot see the truth immediately, will you be patient or will you turn to the glitter of the Samiri? The issue is not the children of Israel. The issue is the human self. The real question is, are we still in our Egypt? Are we in the process of purification in the desert? Or are we truly ready to walk towards the promised consciousness? Because this story is not a history lived in the past. It is a journey that begins anew in every age. in every heart.